right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to Startup Grind. I'm just going to give you a little background about Startup Grind. For those of you who are new, Startup Grind is a global startup community designed to educate, inspire, and connect entrepreneurs. It is powered by Google for Entrepreneurs, which is a network of 75,000. It's just meeting and gathering, and we communicate and meet each other. From 7 to 7:30, I'll be interviewing Asil. From 7:30 to 8, we'll take it to the ground, and then you can ask your questions. So today we'll be interviewing Asil, who is a CEO of Lee Associates. Asil is a dynamic global fashion industry professional of 20 years. There we go. 20 years experience.
20 years and 21, so I started a year old.
And I have seen her CV. Whoa.
It's like a newspaper.
It is. Who's a dynamic global fashion industry professional of 20 years experience with exceptional expertise in strategic leadership, financial business management, creative brand building, commercial retailing, and in-depth expertise in brand equity and relations. And let's not forget, she's one of the most powerful 100 Arab women in the Arabian Business magazine. There we go. Welcome, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. How's everybody doing? All right? Very good. I'm delighted I have more than 2 people in the audience. I was very scared. Half of them are my friends and family, but it's all good.
And support from your husband, which is amazing.
Always support from my husband.
Beautiful.
Yes. Round of applause for my hubby, who has to deal with this. God help him. Yes.
So,
Nice to meet
Asil,
you.
good to meet you.
Thank you
for
for
joining
having me.
us. It is amazing.
Thank you, Philip.
Where's Philip? There we are.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so tell us.
What do you want to tell you?
Tell us from the start, from
Oh,
A.
God.
Where did it start? How did you get into this? What got you into it?
Okay. It started many, many moons ago. Actually, I graduated in interior design about 102 years ago. And I got into the fashion industry purely through passion. My first role in the industry, actually when I started in design, my #1 fan just walked in the door. When I started out all those years ago, it was more on the interior design, and I guess in the 90s everything sort of merged from interiors into fashion. It was all about lifestyle, so I did a lot of work with Ian Schrager. I don't know if you know the group of hotels. They do all these boutique hotels in the 90s, and I did a lot of work with Armani Casa at the time, and Catherine Memmi, and all of these brands that merged both home and fashion into one, and the industry is quite small, so I was very privileged to land myself a role with Harrods at the time.
Oh, wow.
And working with one of my favorite and inspirational people, actually, who has really influenced my career, was Mohammed Al-Fayed. This was in the early 90s, and it was very interesting when I joined Harrods because the perception of Harrods is it's the one store in the world, it's glamorous, it's the one destination, and Mohammed Al-Fayed was a very eccentric man with a great vision and very much a hands-on leader, and he's really the one who taught me and set me off on my path. And the interesting journey being at Harrods at the time is because it's one store, it was a corporate, however it was very much centralized and everything happened in the one space. So all of the managers and the business managers had ownership, so they taught you ownership, they taught you autonomy, they taught you responsibility, and because as a buying manager, that was my role there, they taught you that every penny you spent had to have return. You had to be on the floor. I didn't sit in an office. I had an office, but everything that I did directly affected the shop floor, so I was always in touch with my team. But the one profound thing that Mohammed taught us was that every day he would walk the floors, and it was 5 floors, and I don't know, maybe 500,000 square meters of space, colossal. Harrods is huge. And he would make it his point every day to meet his customers, meet his salespeople. He knew probably 80% of his staff's names, and he would, give sweets to the children, and he would really be integrated in his business. And so that's where my true career started, was with Harrods. And then from there, I was fortunate to land creative and brand director roles for big companies like Karen Millen in the UK, and then in Jigsaw and Whistles, and then working with startups and working with luxury labels. But I guess the journey started from Harrods particularly, which taught me a lot. And every one of the CEOs I had, or chairmen, I was lucky to be in a position where I always worked closely with the chairman or business owner. So each one of the people I worked with really, I guess, left me with an impact and something that influenced me throughout my career. So that's where it all started.
All right, amazing. Now, Harrods was in the UK, right?
Yes.
So the rest after Harrods, were you in different countries?
Yes.
Everything?
Yes, after the UK, I was in Barcelona.
All right.
And my role in Barcelona was very interesting because it was actually a luxury startup, and it was an amazing project that was around 10 years ago, where we had 10 investors. They all came together from different industries, from Nokia, from Bloomingdale's. We had Matt Groening, who was the producer of The Simpsons. All different industries came together and put $1 million each, $10 million, and they had a vision to scout the world's best designers in accessories and invest in their talent, nurture it, mentor it, provide them a platform to grow. And the vision that he had 10 years ago, the CEO, was really incredible because there wasn't really anyone who was looking at new talent or creativity or innovation. So my role there was as creative and brand director, and my role was delivering on the vision of this entrepreneur. That was a very different experience because I had to deal with 10 very strong personalities. We had Marvin Traub, who has now passed away, but of course he was chairman of Bloomingdale's for 50 years. And so we had Marvin Traub and all these heavyweights that we would have to go in and obviously report on a very innovative business concept. It was the first of its kind in New York. So I was between New York and Barcelona. And then 8 years ago, I came out to Dubai. Dubai is where I'm from the Middle East. I am Iraqi and I have Persian and Indian mix. So 8 years ago is when I came out to what is now my home.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. Now, jumping from, for example, the UK to London to Barcelona, from Harrods to Barcelona, did you take a chance, or did you know that you were
Harrods
going?
to Barcelona.
From
It
the
was
UK?
from Jigsaw, from another brand to Barcelona. But the UK
Correct.
to
Yeah,
Barcelona.
exactly. From
Yeah,
UK to Now, taking that jump, did you actually know what you were going to, or did you just take a
Oh
chance?
God, I don't know ever what I'm going to. I've never done anything planned.
Uh-huh.
I've not even rehearsed for today. I didn't actually know what we were going to be talking about. Everything you do is a leap of faith, right? So
I definitely agree.
So I definitely don't believe in planning because you never know what's going to happen. So for me, the challenge was there was a startup, there was ground zero, there was a big vision, there were very strong personalities, so it was managing them, my husband and I, we went to Barcelona, didn't know how to speak Catalan because it's not Spanish, didn't know anything. I chose Barcelona as the destination because the chairman had given us any city in the world to start in. It was Paris, New York, London, typical fashion destinations. The reason I chose Barcelona is I had done my thesis in design many years before, and I was inspired by, I don't know if anybody's gone to Barcelona. Has anybody been to Barcelona? Well, isn't it the most beautiful city? And it's something about the air that you breathe, and when you look at the greatest architects and artists from Miro to Picasso to Dali to Gaudi, it was very inspiring, and I felt that the startup should be positioned there because it would inspire the designers, and it was something about the air that you breathe. It was very organic. It wasn't linked to Paris, which was old luxury, or New York, which was urban. So the whole thing was new. But that was a challenge, right? That's why we did it,
Definitely.
not because I knew what I was doing.
No, I definitely
I
agree.
went
I
with the
love
flow.
that. I love jumping from place to place, not knowing what to expect, and that's what you do. Amazing. So what brought you to Dubai
Um,
8 years ago? What
Yeah.
brought you to come here?
well, actually, I'd been coming to Dubai since, I think, 2001. And I've been coming out here. It was the closest place to the Middle East heritage that I was from, and a safe haven. Unfortunately, in Iraq, I had not been. I'd only lived for a year, and it was the closest to my roots, and I wanted to bring the kids here and to feel. So we'd come on holiday when there was really nothing except 2 hotels and a mall. So I always had wanted to come to Dubai because I knew the vision of the leadership here, and back then I knew there was something dynamic that would happen. But when I was called by Al Tayr I was headhunted by them to come and help them grow their business and expand. But I didn't want to come out. When they called me, I was in between Barcelona and going back to the UK, and I sort of really didn't, it wasn't the right time, I felt. And then Tavis, my husband, was like, well, you've always wanted to go out there. Al Tayr's an amazing company. It's luxury. It's the best. It's corporate. It's a wonderful family. So let's just go for a weekend and see. And then I met their CEO. We got along really well. But it was interesting. You know, today I was saying to somebody that, you know, we came out in 2007 when there was the big bubble, right? So Dubai was just one big plastic bubble, and there was, you know, everything was bigger, better, best, and it was really exciting and loads of money, and people weren't really thinking. So I got to see maybe the last 6 months of this excessive bubble, and then 2008, you know, the beat hit the fan, and so I saw all of that, and then I'm now in the process of seeing it rebuild itself, and I hope we have lessons learned. But it was fascinating to be able to capture the back end of this madness. And it was a very surreal place, but it excited me because there's so much going on, you know, and it makes me proud. Of course, I'm an Arab, I'm from the Middle East, and I think, you know, the vision that they have, it is the place to be if you're an entrepreneur, if you have ambition, you know, if you want to create a difference. I definitely don't think it's Europe right now or the US. It's definitely, there's a lot happening, so.
Dubai.
Yes, and then after Al Tayr, I was asked to join Majd Al Futtaim as their CEO for fashion, as a pure turnaround. I mean, my job there was, every job that I've had has always involved turnaround, restructure, rebuilding, developing. It's never been stable. It's never been come in and just exist with the business. It's always come and fix the beep that we're in. So. So with MAF, it was, you know, regutting the entire infrastructure, rebuilding the foundations from the ground up, leadership team, frontline, putting in, you know, so it was a lot of work, and it was amazing. So it was a very different experience. So each experience I've had has been very, very different.
All right. So starting from interior design to
Yes.
now what you do.
Yeah.
Where was that turning point?
Where was that sweet spot?
Exactly.
You know, it wasn't ever a turning point because, you know, I'm part creative, part commercial. I think because I'm a Gemini, right? So split personality. So I might break down in tears any minute. Huh? Buy one get one free.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's a good
Exactly.
one.
I get
yeah.
two.
So it's always on special for him. Yeah. But so what were you asking me?
From your
The other Gemini part shut down.
Yeah.
Just took a break.
One half
The
is
sweet
closed.
spot. The sweet spot was. Am I supposed to have a clever answer for that? There's no sweet
take
spot.
your time.
Listen, the sweet spot is what I was saying is I've always been commercial. I've always been creative. So the passion is the sweet spot, right? I love what I do. I never compromise on my beliefs, my integrity, my values. And no matter the situation or role that I'm in, that's the sweet spot. And when I go in and take roles, it's always about, if you hire me, you're gonna have to live with me, you know? And so, and with that comes no compromise, and the sweet spot is the challenge. That's why I put myself in challenging roles. That's what drives me. Plus I have bad concentrating, and sometimes I don't finish my sentences. And don't remember what I just said.
I think it's from telling
I'm
the
also a stand-up comic. Come see me Saturdays at Media Rotana. Huh?
Where's that going to be? What is that?
Nothing.
Oh.
Nothing. Okay, next.
All right. Now, how did Al Tayr find you?
Ooh. Through
How
a
did you get
fabulous
yourself out
lady
there?
called Jill Mills. She is a bespoke headhunter. She works with the luxury industry, and she's a tough old lady. And Jill Mills, is this on the record? She's lovely. She's so soft and fluffy. So Jill is the one who found me when I was back in the UK, or just coming back from Barcelona, and was very adamant that, and very pushy to come out. You've always wanted to be here, so that's
The
how I
connections
was
are very
approached.
important.
Yeah, networking is awesome. I'm terrible at it, guys, but it is the best thing, and you should do it. And I'm forever being told by my team I'm an introvert. I have to say this is personality B, because I'm very much a I lack self-confidence, and I'm an introvert person, and I'm very, very awkward. But then when I'm in my zone, I'm very flamboyant and I'm able to talk to you. But the second I walk out, I crawl under my bed and I have huge insecurities. So networking is very difficult for me. It really is. And people assume, wow, you must be out there networking. My brother is just the same. We're both exactly the same. Yeah. So people assume that, and I'm guilty because I'm terrible at it. But it is. I've learned in the last 12 months, after I quit 20 years of working for others and went into the role that I have now, I've learned the power of networking, you know, because before they're like, see, you've got to be this, and I do enough networking for the role, so I'd be at this event doing that for the business. But when you're doing it on your own, it's like, now I get it. Networking is really cool. It's a good thing, definitely. Yeah.
Wow. That's really nice. Very interesting.
Yeah, really? I'm not bored you to death?
Oh, no, not yet.
Okay. Good.
All right. Along the way, do you have any regrets? Do you have any mistakes that you feel that if you would have changed, you would have went into a different direction? Or your life would have been different in any way? Or your career path
No
would have
regret.
changed?
You know, you can't have regrets because you don't plan. If you plan, you get regrets, yeah? But if you go with the flow, I like you. You're just so like, yay! Communication. But if you go with the flow, you shouldn't have regrets. Everything's a learning, no?
It takes you away. Tell them about Harrods.
Oh, what happened with that?
What'd I do?
About parents.
Why did you leave?
Uh-oh.
I left because I don't compromise. I always leave my roles when I'm not able to do what I truly believe in, right? And when I see that something is not appropriate or something is not going right or it compromises on, then I leave. And so I'm not going to go into it because it's on the record. But it's not regrets. The question was, what regrets do you have?
Yeah,
and
so
I
you
don't
don't
have
have
any
anything.
because you shouldn't, because everything is an opportunity, right? I know it's cheesy and it sounds like
No,
that, but
it's
it's
true.
the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. At a younger age, did you always envision that you would have your own
You're
business?
saying I'm old,
and-
huh?
Oh, no, well,
You're
let's say
saying I'm
younger.
old?
Let's say younger.
Oh, okay, yes,
Young
yes,
can be any
yes.
age.
Yes, yes. As young as you feel.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Did you always see that you would be doing this? Did you see that you would be here? Did you always want to have your own business, your
Oh
own
God,
startup?
yes. Absolutely.
So it's a passion at a young age. As a kiddo.
As a little kid, as a kiddo, you know, I had the most inspirational person in the world who taught me, you know, the entrepreneurial way and the values of not compromising on your belief, and that was my father, Allah yarhamu, God rest his soul. And he truly, and my mother, who's still with us, alhamdulillah. But you know, what my father was an amazing man. Actually, Dad was a pioneer for solar energy, and you know, in the 70s, when one of a few handful of people in the world who had this vision of solar energy, and even now it's a hard sell, you know. But we as kids always saw Dad, you know, whether he was doing talks or whether he was inspiring others, that absolutely love what you do, never compromise, and you know, he was an entrepreneur. He hated working for others, always worked for himself. The one thing he did teach us, one of the many things, was not to retire at a young age, because the minute he retired, at 43, he had 4 heart attacks, 3 strokes, and horrendous, you know, so you kind of have to keep going. That's, you know, I guess if you were asking my father what regrets, maybe he would have said I should not have retired at a young age, because he always, it does keep you going and it keeps you, you know, but he was the inspiration, you know, he was an entrepreneur. We learned huge amounts by what he did, and one of the greatest lessons he taught us was social responsibility, to be selfless, you know, to give continuously, no matter what role, or, you know, always, you know, no matter how hard the situation was for us, you know, always to think of others. He helped so many families, and that was, you know, the most profound thing that my father taught us, and in my family. It was, you know, faith, belief, integrity, all these values, really. You see, I get very serious when I talk about my father.
Yeah.
No jokes there, yeah.
Oh, well, bless him. Seems like a great man.
Allah yarhamu.
Allah yarhamu. All right, so since you have your own startup business and you started everything, now do you feel it takes up a lot of your time compared to how you used to be?
Now I'm gonna really open up. Yeah, oh my God.
How many
skip the
hours
question,
sleep?
but-
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably.
How do you balance?
Yeah. Well,
Balance?
balance. I mean, you know, what's that?
I think he does.
Yeah, balance. Well, first and foremost, on a serious note, really, I mean, how I balance is, you know, in the morning. So this is how my daily routine goes, right? So I'll wake up in the morning. I never start my day before 11:30. I'm a horrible morning person, but I work all through the night. My day starts with 2 hours where I, without any question, have to pray, have to read Quran, have to sit peacefully for my 2 hours uninterrupted. That's my ritual. When I'm done with that, then I will start my day because that's my sanity. I also surround myself with amazing people. You know, my team are tight. They're emotionally engaged. They're the best, not from just experience, but the best human beings you could ever find. And that's what my balance is. Of course, my family. But, you know, because when you're an entrepreneur, when you're starting up, there is no balance. Like, we never sleep, you know, it's tough. We're always broke. You know, people think we're loaded, we're minted, we're walking around, you know, pimping our ride or whatever. And it's not like that, guys. It's like today I was like, Tavis, we need to sell our car. It's tough, you know, because you're used to a cushy job and you're not thinking, and suddenly you're like eating beans on toast, you've not paid your mortgage, you're avoiding the bank, and it's really hard. So maintaining sanity is by having amazing people around you, you know, and it's not easy. It's a really big commitment. But you have to have the drive and the tenacity, and you have to believe, right? I mean, and I say to, you know, my team and my family, like, unless you're on the edge and you're feeling it, then it means nothing. If I started it and the whole world came to me and we were like advising this and taking on these big, then I wouldn't have felt it much. But I'm feeling it. And so it's sweeter than ever when you get it. You're like, yes, I've earned this, because it's not easy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Now tell us
I've
how
exhausted
long.
her.
Oh, no. All right.
I'd love to know more about startup.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was fixing to ask right now.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to start up? What was the process of your startup?
Yeah. Well, I guess in the back of my mind, my startup has been with me for 20 years, right? It's always been, because it's something that it was my objective. I knew intentionally, I always say my career was intentional, because I knew that I would have to, I wanted to know how do you do retail? How do you develop brand? How do you manufacture? How do you source? I wanted to know the entire process. So I spent my time, you know, if you look at my CV, it's 2 years here, 1.5 years, and I used to get questioned in the beginning when I was interviewed, like, you're never loyal to a job. And I say, well, actually, I'm about fast track and career progression. My 1.5 years is equivalent to 10 years of somebody else, so put me in the role and you'll see. But it was always like, I'm going to finish this, so I learned this, finish that, to get to the point where I felt, now I can go and advise, and I'm an expert in this and that, and have the skill set. So the business that I started, like I said, was not something I just woke up and said, I'm going to quit and I'm going to do it. It was very much not planned, but in the back of the mind. I thought it was an opportunistic time to do it now, because I felt that I had, I guess, the whole rounded experience in my career of what I wanted to do. And there wasn't really any other role that, you know, that would come my way that would challenge me. I think Majda Fatlain was the last role, and it was a real restructure and a real, like, get down and dirty, and that completed the cycle. So the role that I have now is actually three roles. And so the first one is I have lead associate. Basically, lead is advises. I hate consultants. I hate thinking of it as a consultancy. I apologize, Philip, and every other consultant in the room. But for us, it's about, you know, I come from a background of retail and brand, so everything I talk about is about emotional connection, emotional engagement. So therefore, my process in my business is when we partner with someone, it is a partnership. So we more advise. I advise brands that are coming into the market who want to look at market entry. I advise you know, businesses that are looking to grow concepts organically, and we look at restructure, turnaround, strategic planning, business development, financial, the whole gambit, right? This is what we do from a retail, all multi-disciplines of retail, all the different areas. But so that's my kind of bread and butter, let's say. That's what we do, right? But my passion is with another business I set up simultaneously, which is really crazy to do at the same time. and it's called Establish 2014. Now, over my 8 years here, what the region taught me is that there wasn't an industry in retail, there wasn't an industry for creatives, there wasn't an industry for fashion designers to learn the trade. There wasn't an economy that was looking at inwards of organically growing brands. And every time I used to do, I do a lot of, not a lot of talks, strategic talks on leadership, women empowerment. I talk about my passion for emerging talent, especially because I did that with my startup in New York. So the more I spoke about it, I'd get designers coming in, you know, Steve, can you coach, can you mentor me, can you show me how it's done? Because here, you know, graduates of creative would go and study outside, come back, and then where do they go? They either start their own business as tailors, really, they become tailors, or they go to Al Fayed or Sheghub or these big groups and they sort of follow brand guidelines and get a desk job. In the States or in Europe, you're an intern, junior designer, senior designer, you graduate, creative director, there's progression in career. And the more that I realized the need for that, I knew that there was absolutely, it was essential to build a business, to have an infrastructure to support these creatives, a place for them to come and be nurtured, to learn, to be mentored. And what we do is that I scout talent from across the Middle East in the different genres of creativity, in fashion, art, and design. And then through a very, very stringent selection criteria, we then hone in on the ones that I think are definitely worth the investment from a global perspective, so that we then look to take them to as global brands and build their labels. So then we put them through a program where, like I said, we mentor them, we teach them the basic foundation, and then we help them brand their business, build it, invest in them financially with a view to then exposing them internationally. And it was led also by frustration, because when I go to Europe or go to shows and they'd be like, you Arabs, y'all camel jockeys and whatever, and I'm like, okay, or oil and gas, and it was like, well, actually the Middle East, you know, is heritage, it's culture, it's thousands and hundreds and whatever years of civilization, and there's a lot more to our oil and gas and desert, you know. There is an amazing wealth of talent, and I believe in investing in the future of talent. I believe in innovation and creativity. I believe that the future of any economy rests on the young generation, right? And the entrepreneurial spirit of any country is the success, right? So when I understood that there was a need, I structured a business to accommodate these designers, and that's what we're also launching. As well as I have my own brand, which is really cool. But that just keeps me sane. I get to play with pictures. Yeah. Oh, let's all look at her and make her feel uncomfortable.
I don't. You won't. I'm late for a reason. A good one.
So, yeah, so that's what I'm doing right now to answer your question, right? So a lot of stuff keeps me busy.
I'm very curious. In an industry where there's a retail infrastructure,
Mhm.
and distribution infrastructure, where most of the young designers are treated like tailors, and like you said, or hires, in the way of people going at their stuff.
Yes.
How we can
Right, well, first and
Nobody
foremost,
buys first and foremost. That's what
Yeah.
the background of our designers.
It is.
Let me introduce myself. I
Please.
did creative studies for most of the region, and I had creative strategies for government.
wonderful.
So I will do it as a CSR.
Yes.
I'm a professional, I'm a media professional, I have nothing to do with this. So as of my husband's CSR, I had
Lovely.
companies. D3 is a product of all our right and banging the doors to governments.
Yes.
For governments for many, many years.
Yes.
So I've been with the initial D3 team on strategy. And
Yes.
then we went and, so I too work with most of the big names that you hear of, Market, Atamato, Lisa, all
Yes.
these names, as well as smaller names. Just guiding them and mentoring them.
Yes.
I'm finding this huge challenge that the stores are not up to the mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't have a marketing shop, we don't have a pattern candy, we don't have a.
No, you have a marketing trap.
Now we
Now you have a marketing trap. Somebody's got to fill those big
Yeah,
shoes, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, of course it's challenging. That's why we set the business up, because, you know, what's interesting is there are a lot of platforms and the intention to help. But at the end of the day, designers need support financially, they need the right access to the right production, sourcing, all of the above. You know, myself and my team bring 65 years of that wealth of industry contacts, whether it's from buyers, whether it's wholesale, distribution, manufacturing, procurement, sourcing, logistics. the entire thing. So, you know, our role is to support them through that entire process and allow them to create. As a creative, you should create. You shouldn't be running around invoices. You shouldn't be going after your fabrics and doing all these, you know, things that do take up their time, right? Yes, how do buyers don't support here? Well, you know, it's really interesting because unfortunately we are import culture, right? Okay? And also, as typical emerging markets are, you know, you start with franchise, you're importing, you're, you know.
There's governments behind
Yeah.
those markets, that they have to have X amount, and this
Yes.
is what we've been talking about, governments.
Yes, yes. But what I'm saying is, you know, here we also follow, we very rarely lead,
True.
right?
Very
So for us, our vision is if we are able to, you know, for me, I'm looking for my next Galliano, my next McQueen. And we're very particular as the designers because it's a 5 to 10 year investment. In that process, my dependency is not just on the region, right? My network is absolutely international. So in their 5 to 10 year business plans, we look at wholesale doors that are in Asia, that are in Europe, and the US, a huge market. And what I did for 12 months is I put all the ducks in a row. So I made sure that there was buy-in from my advisors, my contacts in the US and Europe, buyers internationally, to believe in the project and fully back it, number one. Number two is the designers that I have are super, super creative and talented. They're not the run-of-the-mill or the names maybe that you know. They're the creative geniuses that are quiet, yeah? And then also, once we prove that they are successful, unfortunately, sometimes you have to go outwards to go inwards, right? That's without, and so, you know, my dependency isn't getting Saks here or Bloomingdale's here or Harvey Nichols or a handful of few buyers to believe. My success depends on the world, right? And the world recognizing the strength of our Middle Eastern talents. That's my vision. And it just doesn't rest on Elisa, right? This is not the one example. We have so many. But if I take my Hasian Bazaz or Rabia Zir or Aisha Ramadan or whoever, and in Paris celebrate them, and yeah. So once Paris is behind them, and once Europe or the US is behind them, then for sure they're going to be getting their recognition. And also, in fairness, you know, the landscape is changing. And it's, you know, it's very interesting because we're always very quick to mock the buyers here or mock the retailers, nobody, but also young talent is a risk, it's a chicken and egg. Young talent is a risk. When you go to a buyer and they have a certain budget, who are you going to put it on? You're going to put it on those that deliver timely, that are sustainable, that create collections time and time again, that produce quality at the right price points in there every season? Or are you going to put yourself on a new kid who is not sustainable? Because I tell you what, I interviewed over 350, 400, everyone's a designer, alhamdulillah, everybody. But you find me out of those 400, the 2 or 3 who, when I ask them, can you show me a portfolio from 2 or a year ago that's consistent, whether you have money or not, there's consistency, you have seasonality, you understand the game, and that's part of the process. So on one side, the buyers don't invest because sometimes they're ignorant, but on the other side, they need to invest in something sustainable. So you kind of have to be the middleman, right? So we're not there to mock this or that. We're there to get both of them to kind of, you know, you believe in this. And also, we're very strategic in collaborations. I know the power of collaborations and partnering, right? So when my brand is an ambassador to this brand and when we are partnering with strength, that pushes. So, and that comes into networking, of course. So that's how we're approaching it, yeah?
All right. You lost me there, but I got you.
Yeah, I know. Totally, everybody's zoned out. People on their BlackBerry, like, yeah, whatever. Okay.
All right, before we take it to the floor, I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of questions to ask you.
Inshallah,
I just
it'd
want
be
to ask
awfully
you
embarrassing if you didn't.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Just want to ask you one question. What obstacles do you foresee entrepreneurs they would face starting up a startup in Dubai or in the Middle East? Do you foresee anything or?
Okay, challenges, right? It's not
What
Dubai-based. I
challenges?
think what are the entrepreneurial challenges that oh my God, where do we start? Like,
All
you know,
right.
getting people, getting people to believe,
Mhm.
right? That's the one challenge. Like, you have a vision, and over again, they're like, that's great, you have a vision, but let somebody invest their money, and then I'm going to invest in you. So that's the challenge, getting people want to back you from a grassroots.
Mhm.
That's the tough thing, and that's where you need to have tenacity, self-belief, because it's not easy. You know, as much as you're passionate because you live and breathe the idea and you're like, it's so
Exactly.
cool,
Doesn't
and
mean
it's
everyone
gonna,
else
I'm
will.
gonna put a button here and we're gonna grow some beans and climb to the, you know, that's wonderful. But when you're talking, you know, that's what it's taught me. When you're talking to people, all they want to know is what's the return, what's their business plan, what is the financial, what does it look like, how's, you know, they're not passionate, number one. You know, you're sitting there and you're all lovey-dovey about your thing, yeah, whatever. You know, I talk often about social responsibility. I want to create legacy. I want to build an investment, you know, an investment pool that's about social responsibility. And they're like, yeah, that's fluffy stuff. What does your numbers look like and how much money you're going to make? That's the reality. So it's hard. It's not easy. There are many obstacles. But if you truly believe in what you're doing and you stick to that, then you will land yourself a
Nothing will come
golden
in your way.
goose.
Exactly.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
If not, that's the last you'll ever see of me.
All right. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask?
Yes.
There we go.
I'll introduce myself.
Please.
My name is Karim Sarioun. A little bit like you, started here, ended up in North America, the Caribbean, career in logistics, back in Dubai in 2008, which is
Okay.
home. It's been home since many years. Started a small fashion business, did a bit of design, I designed gym bags as well, kids' clothes with my mom.
Cool.
And we've distributed to the names you've mentioned for
Okay.
a while. Now that I've stopped because of reasons with the brand and so forth. I'd like your vision. I mean, I have a boutique in Jumeirah, in the very beginning of Jumeirah 1, isolated from everyone, and I watch all these malls pop up. I'm seeing Al Wasl Road, you know, Galleria, if you
Yes,
know where that
yes,
is. To the
of
right,
course.
there's Al Wasl Vita. Then you
Mhm.
have all the Miras project. We have Mall of the Emirates. We have Dubai Mall.
Mall
Now
of
we're
the
gonna-
World.
Mall of the World, which is not far from here. How do you see this vision? Because when I was distributing these brands,
Yes.
which is I represented a New York denim designer,
Yes.
an eccentric New York designer, and
They all
a
are.
group, two Haitian brothers that would design shirts in Miami.
Mhm.
And I was going around knocking on doors. I did not find clients because it had to be either Harvey Nichols, Bloomingdale's, Boutique One. There are no boutiques in Dubai. It's either the big department stores or the monobrand stores.
Yes.
There are no owner-run boutiques. There are very few of them, except maybe Sauce,
Yes.
and now a few more, especially for ladies.
Mhm.
So, what's your vision about retail? You talked
Yes.
about retail. I'd like to know, what do you see? You
Yes.
have an amazing experience. I'm very happy I came here. Tell us a little bit about
Yes.
your vision for the
My vision for retail globally,
Retail in Dubai.
or my vision for retail regionally?
Dubai.
Yeah, my vision for retail in Dubai is, I think, as everything is a cycle, right? So there was a point where, you know, Majd Al Futtaim malls and the, you know, Dubai Mall and these bigger, better, best malls that come in and they, you know, they're exciting, they're attraction. But when you look at the performance of these malls, then typically you'll find, especially in a mall like Dubai Mall, it's always about F&B or the tourist attraction or the anchors. It's very targeted on tourism. So now how much is that making profit for the brands that are in there is to be questioned. My belief in retail is that it will go back to community malls. I'm very much a believer in, you know, and I always talk about your demographic and your economy comes from your local. Local meaning residing in this region. It's not just about your tourism, therefore, you know, and community malls provide an experience. Customers want an experience, they want intimacy, so as much as you have the big malls providing a different kind of experience, I think brand-wise, when it comes to ready-to-wear and apparel and this sort of thing, I think it's absolutely about community. It's about driving that point of difference. It's about having, and the success of a brand is not the location. You know, when I negotiate for brands, everybody wants to be in Dubai Mall. Everybody wants to be in the luxury zone. You go to the mall, they have a waiting list. But my belief is if you have the right brand and the right offer, you will become a destination. And then when you reference it to the big brands that are destinations, that's true. So, you know, community malls provide a very intimate experience, and I think the people that are residing here want to have that experience. I personally hate going to Dubai Mall. If I'm going to buy something, I'm not going to sit in a car for an hour and a half, look for a space, walk for 10 miles to get it. You know, I want to go somewhere that provides me with what I need from me in an environment that I want. And the biggest thing that Majd Al Futtaim did that was wrong is that they, you know, and I'll give you that example just to prove a point. You know, when they rezoned their mall and they killed off Rodeo Drive and they did the new luxury extension, that was probably the worst thing they could have ever done, because what that did is take away that intimate experience from the private customers who used to come to Rodeo, park their car, go up, shop privately, come back. They now put them in a central place where they're mingling with everybody else. You know, a consumer, especially for luxury, has special buying habits. They don't want to sit there and flaunt their wealth. They want to sit privately, be serviced, finish, and leave. You put me in a place where I enter through a car park, I'm sitting around with someone in hot pants, spending my money, what I'm trying to do privately with, especially here. You know, cultural sensitivity is incredibly important and undermined by a lot. So from a retail perspective, I think we have to focus inwards, not just from brands organically, but we have to look at our customer. Our wealth and what sustained our economy collapse here was the wealth of the local demographic, right? It was our spending power, and that comes from community. So if you have a brand, and I agree, there are not enough multi-brand stores, and actually in our business model, we're looking to open multi-brand, because that should be the vision, to be, you know, influencing and creating these organic, homegrown experiences. But I wouldn't be looking, and for example, Mall of the World, I'm not going to go look to sign all my brands there. I really don't. I love the Miras developments. I think, you know, and the beach is a wonderful example, and I think people want that experience. They're going back to that, you know, and I have all the figures, and I'm telling you, it's about footfall is driven in the big malls from a tourism. It's not from the real spending, right?
Thank you. I have one second question. It's to do with brand positioning.
Mhm.
And I'll let everybody else, I don't want to take up the whole time. But, you know, brand positioning, I consider the brands that I carry to be luxury. When you're selling a pair of denim, you know, around 1,000 dirhams, or a shirt for around 800 dirhams, it's luxury. But we got stuck between the Hermes, let's say, and the Zara. This is where, and I feel that I've run a factory making T-shirts for Hanes in Haiti.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen mass market. I've worked with JCPenney and so forth at the manufacturing level in Haiti. Now here I am. I'm in Dubai. I represent these fashion brands, small brands, and I feel lost between Zara, where almost every woman has a pair of Zara something, jeans or a top, and the top luxury, which is in Dubai is quite common. You'll see, you know, what do they say? The uniform is Louboutins, Hervé Léger, and Chanel.
Yes.
So. What do you see for these brands that are in the middle?
But you're actually in the perfect place. Like in our business model, you know, what we're targeting is certainly not premium, and it's definitely not mass. Accessible luxury, or affordable luxury, is the place to be. And you know, Michael Silverstein, who wrote an amazing book, and you either trade up or trade down. Accessible luxury is absolutely the market. Now, what you're providing as an experience is where you have to lock in, right? Because price positioning, like I said, you know, if you have a lot of money, you're going to buy a shed load. And if you don't have, you're aspirational. That's why it's successful. That's why when you look at brands like Michael Kors and Tory Burch and all of those, they're aspirational because everyone aspires and can afford it. So that's the beautiful place to be. The difference is you have to look at, is it niche? Does it create an experience? Can you emotionally engage and provide a total brand? You know, and what is luxury? Actually, in essence, when you look at luxury now, it's no more the luxury we know. Louis Vuitton is no more a luxury brand. That's like Carrefour. That's mass market in our books. Luxury is having an experience, a uniqueness, a sense of difference, all of the above. So you have to look, I mean, I don't know your brand and I don't know how it's run, but you know, luxury or accessible luxury is about your store teams. It's about the environment. It's about the smell, the senses, all of that. That's what makes you buy 1,000. You know, look at Starbucks, right? Who the hell? $10 a cup? That's it, because an experience. So that's what you probably have to look at. And if you open in a corner that they will come to you, huh? If you provide, if you tick off on all of these points. Yes, you're welcome.
You know, 3 days ago, there were 16 multi-brands signed. I know one personally that is coming with 8,000 square feet, another 8,000. I know that capital is coming in and ready to wear. So there are many, many things that are coming in and teaching. And the way the experience is structured, I think that will be one of the three destinations to start where I think people, particularly your ranges, which is between the two markets that you're talking about. I think that whole experience and the way the brand is driving traffic there will be something that will be upward and down.
And going back on community malls, they typically tend to be accessible luxury, right? which is why I think the power of Miras and all of those developments are catering specifically to that market. So again, if you're looking for locations, definitely go for those. I wouldn't go for them. Anybody from Dubai Mall here? Okay, good. Don't go for Dubai. Yeah. But, okay.
A question, you mentioned that you've always been around organizations that are either going through a turnaround
Yes.
or, you know, stuff that's in traction. How do you learn to deal with something that's in flux like that if you don't have experience working with, say, a firm that's specializing in restructuring and stuff like that? Because, you know, when you say that you went to Majid Al Futtaim, and it's really big, you know, they have a lot of different operations. I mean, it must be daunting to take something
For them.
For them. Yes,
Well, you
it is
know,
daunting for them.
To be honest with you, I mean, that confidence is amazing, and you know that's one of the reasons why it's really interesting to hear somebody with your background. But I mean, really, I mean, how do you do it? Because
How do you do it?
when you go to
What's the
interior design for
secret?
school, when you go to interior design for school, you know, there's a certain type of skill set, and you know, a design.
Yeah, I don't have a finance background. I didn't study in business school. I don't
Not
have.
just that.
Mhm.
I mean, when you talk about restructuring, there's just so many
Oh,
other
yes.
areas, right?
I made my CFO cry on many occasions.
Right.
So really, you know, joking aside, how do you do that? Well, how I do it is in my interview, it was really quite simple. That I'll take on the role. It's a deal, really. The deal is that I'll take on the role and do this for you. If you leave me alone for 12 months. If I don't deliver, I'll resign. It's because I'm very clear on how I run my business and how you deliver on an objective, and I do that through my teams and my people. The last thing I look at are the profits or the numbers. It doesn't interest me at all. I'm excellent at that, but my first 6 months, I don't look at a single sheet, and I'll tell you the process of what I did. But it started with me meeting the CEO of the business and saying, this is my skill, this is my background. I'll give you 12 months, let me figure this out, and if I don't, I'll resign. It's really that. And when you know, so give me autonomy, don't come anywhere near me, and let me do my job and deliver. And you know, some businesses are like, are you kidding me? No way. And I happen to be in a business where he completely respected my expertise and allowed me to do that, right? And it proved wonderful because I turned the business by 300% up in profit within 18 months, you know? And how do you do that? For me, my process is clear. I spent the first 3 months of my life with that business meeting. We had 500 people in the business. The business had been underperforming for 6 years grossly. It was fragmented. It had no foundation of retailing or no knowledge or know-how. It had inherited a huge portfolio of underperforming stores. It had 500 people who were demotivated and not in a great place, you know, but stuck there because they needed a living. And with Majid Al Futtaim, of course, they have GCC and the whole reach in Levant, so it's not Dubai-based. Of course, it had stores in Kuwait, Qatar, and everything. So I spent 3 months on a road trip and meeting every single one of these 500 people. And I was CEO number 3, so they've been pretty fed up of the usual crap that they have been dealing with. So, and I did that because I wanted to make sure, first and foremost, they understood who their new leader was, and to be connected, to show them that, you know, I wanted to understand really, to really listen and get the feedback from these teams. And then I immediately put in a social responsibility program. I did everything that the books tell you not to do, right? I didn't look at numbers, I didn't look at the infrastructure, I looked at the human capital, and I looked at how deeply it was affected, and I looked at how can I emotionally align and engage them. Because for me, there's no on earth any way to turn a business around, not financially. I don't believe in cutting heads. I actually reduced the portfolio by 60%, retained 100% of my teams. Reduced the design portfolio, not just the store locations, by 70%, retained all of my teams. Because for me, it wasn't about let's cut this, let's get that, fire all your people. For me, it was like, let's get to the bottom of why these people hate you. Let's get them emotionally connected and try to believe. And I did that through many ways, but the strongest, most powerful one was social responsibility. And I was specifically told, don't waste your time on that, get on and do the job. What did I do? I wasted my time on that.
So quick question on that,
Mhm.
because I think in this part of the world, CSR and initiatives like that are still still developing.
Yes.
We're still a long way from sort of stuff that you see in North America or Europe or
Yes.
whatnot. And I know you mentioned early on that when you're saying an interview, you say take it or leave it, and that you don't want to compromise on things that you don't live on. Now, all that is obviously it's great, but I think a lot of the people who are at a younger stage in their career, and I don't want to say that you're in an older stage of your career.
That's okay, I've been
You're a very
insulted
young
twice
woman.
today. When you're old, you're thick-skinned.
Exactly.
I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
So for
The
the
outside.
people, because a lot of people over here are,
Yes,
I would say,
young.
kind of starting off or are still young in their
Yes.
careers, can't afford the luxury of kind of.
Neither could I. Hey, listen, I was like this at 21.
But you started at Harrods, and then the reason why I bring that up is because
Yes.
that gives you a lot of.
But you know how I started at Harrods?
Yeah, that's.
I started at Harrods as a salesperson earning £10,000 a year, which is 10 times 6.
36.
No, she-
Right.
60,000 dirhams
a year.
a year.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And that's right out of school, is it?
No.
Like out of university?
No, I didn't do it. I was, for me, my ambition when I was in university was marry a rich man and do nothing.
Did you do that?
That didn't work
No,
out.
that didn't work out. And that's husband number 2. It still hasn't worked out. It's still a vision. Yeah. No, it's totally transparent.
The other way.
Yeah.
You are sleeping on the couch.
But it was. That's so. When I graduated, I really wasn't interested in working. My dad would be like, get off your butt and get a job. And I'm like, Dad, I'm looking for a rich husband. Leave me alone, really. And then at some point, he thought I would find a rich husband, and I didn't. But and then I got myself a job at Harrods, and I was a simple salesperson, really
Right.
earning very little. But I was so ambitious and determined to work my buns off in that department. And I wanted to be best salesperson. I wanted to have my picture when you walk into Harrods as sales employee. I got it. I wanted to be awarded the chairman's award. I got it. I wanted to work overtime. I wanted to build customer relations. I
And
was
then after
driven.
that, I think it's having that time, that brand, and obviously being at such a managerial role at one of the best retail, organizations in the world, and that's kind of what gave you a bit of that ability to sort of flex your muscles.
No, Habibi, no. You gotta get ability to flex your muscles is believing in yourself. It's not about Harrods, it's not about landing a role. And I was, it was 500 people sitting in a gross office filling in an application. It wasn't glamorous when I landed my job, But my point is that I did have, a vision. I actually at that age wanted to replace Mohammed Al-Fayed. I'm like, I could do your job at 21, ridiculous. But my point is it's that self-belief. And it's that, confidence that allows you to sit there and not dictate, but you're so confident in what your skills are, you understand? You have to perfect. And you have to choose, this is the skill, and this is when you perfect it, then they know what they're getting is value. And as I toured with my manager as a stupid little kid and told her I'm going to be the best salesperson, she truly believed in that. And then I evidenced it, and I had to work hard. My career wasn't, lovely and luxurious, and I made it to the top, and I'm so wonderful. Every single role I worked hard for. Going back to your question, if it was daunting at Majd Al Futtaim, 7 CEOs in a big group, all men, every single one of them would open a door and pull a chair for me because they knew I was a female and I wanted that respect. But they also knew that when it came to a board meeting, that there was absolutely, it's definitely not a boys' playground, and I definitely had a role to play. But that comes from your confidence. They respected me. I do a lot of talks on women in leadership, and all these women do is moan. It's like a cackling group of blah, 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 men this and men that. And I'm always saying, stop moaning. There's nothing in the rule book that says men are daunting and you whatever.
Exactly.
It's about your skill and your expertise. And me, if I'm going to surround myself by top people, I'm not looking male, female. I'm looking at confidence, ability to perform, ambition. At MAF, I used to employ plumbers as salespeople, and my teams were like, I'd go into, a recruitment day. I'd sit down. I was involved as much as I could in everyone. And I'd sit down and what do you do? I'm a plumber, I'm from Syria, I'm a plumber, I'm from whatever, I'm amazing. You're ambitious, you want to learn. I don't care if you come from Gucci, Fendi, Prada. I don't want that. If you're ambitious and you're tenacious and you want to learn, hire them. And they used to be like, God, please, you're killing us. Stop hiring plumbers and car salespeople. And yeah, because I think, well, you have ambition. I know when I'm going to invest in training, you want to learn. My LVMH guy who thinks he's all that is not interested. But you have to have the self-belief, right? This didn't come easy.
And it's refreshing to hear that from somebody in
Yeah.
your role because, you know, I'm sure everybody must experience it who's applied for work. You know, firstly, it's that list of requirements. When you're coming out of school, they want 3 or 5 years of experience.
Of course.
And then, you know, when you go meet people and, you know, it looks like one of the things on their radar is you want somebody who's done this before and whatnot. So it's interesting to hear somebody.
But you know, you have to start from the bottom, right? So I didn't go in thinking, well, I graduated and I have a this and that degree and I come from this and that and I want to become a director. I came in wanting to be a director here, but I knew I had to start, you know, as a silly little salesperson. But that was so, the wealth of information I learned on the shop floor allowed me to see one of the mistakes of my bosses, to learn from them, and to connect with, you know, my customer. But my point is you have to start from the bottom. You're not going to come in all guns a-blazing, even if you're an MBA. It doesn't make, and you have to be humble in your request.
Well, I mean, you give chances to plumbers, so I gotta respect that, you know, because.
But you have to be humble. You know, when you're going for an interview,
Yeah.
you know, you have to be sometimes willing to make a compromise. If you're not, you say, just give me a chance, and I'll take a half a salary. I'll do
Right.
this. You've got to. That's why they have internships, I guess, to figure it out. But it doesn't come easier, and you
Right.
have to. And you're going to be told no. I mean, I've sat through thousands of interviews, thought I've got them, never heard from them again. Killer.
And just to like interject before we go back on point, I mean, I think there's a point you was raising, like the fact that you started at Harrods, I mean, that's obviously like a brand name, so maybe that's where you was to stop at. I'm glad that she responded and said that you can have the best platforms in the world, but if you don't have the tenacious ability to be ambitious, aggressive, and know exactly what you want, it doesn't matter what platforms you start off with, period.
Yeah.
Because you hate people graduating from Ivy School, top institutions in the world, and they don't have the same abilities and resumes or backgrounds as you did, is the drive. And that's something that really came through in your storyline. Like, you were ambitious, you hustled
Yeah.
hard. Because I'm sure you know people who were at Harris who started
Oh, God,
higher
yeah.
than you and are so proud you still there.
Yeah. And
So-
also, you know, I studied interior design. I didn't go to London Business School, so when I got my, you know, job as a GM or CEO, you know, they didn't say, oh, God, where's your, you know, LBS and all of that good stuff. They thought, oh, wow, you can do the job, so we better shut up and give you the role.
I think there's no successful entrepreneurs that weren't visionaries first, that believed in what they wanted, and then their experience and education caught up to what their vision was.
Sure.
So don't go and get the MBA first, and then think you'll find a vision from getting an MBA.
Sure.
You have that vision first, and it will catch up with you.
Yeah.
Afterward, yeah.
All right, we have one
Yeah.
question in the back.
Can we just speak
The
to the
young man
lady?
here.
Where did you learn your high emotional intelligence?
Oh, from my daddy.
Your dad, yeah.
You know, I mean, I have to say it. I think that's probably innate, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the DNA. Yeah, my father absolutely. Our family were all like that. But I think it also helps the fact that I'm a hot-blooded Arab, number one. But of course, I was educated. You know, I had the best, right, of both worlds. The fact is, I have the hot-blooded Arab heritage, and then I got the privilege to study in the U.S., study in the U.K. So all of that, I think, helps. But it's definitely
More age.
innate.
Just
Good
very
question,
clever.
I
thank
think
you. All right, thank you.
And a Gemini, that helps as well.
Sorry, young lady, I don't remember your name, but
Okay,
Yeah,
you can call me whatever you like.
you were playing music, which I love. You know, about talking about the human capital, the customer service. I have a company which is known as Dubai Customer Service.
Oh, wonderful.
It has been running for 2 years, and none of the government departments has given me even 5 minutes to
Wow.
listen to what I'm doing.
There you go.
They always reply to my, first of all, they don't reply to my email. Even if they reply, it comes from the autoresponder that they are out of country. so when they come back, they will call me.
Okay.
Okay.
Then I have a TV channel. It's a web TV and radio.
Okay.
And I would like permission from you to take an appointment and interview you on
Wow.
that TV.
Sure, with
Because
pleasure.
what you said was really something, and about the banks, believe me, I am so lucky. I am always pursued by the bankers. They just want to check on me if I'm still alive. No, really, I'm telling you, because even the immigration here, I don't get a visa like a normal person. It's a monthly, yearly visa, and the committee has to
To see if you're still
check if I'm alive, I can continue, then they give me another 1-year visa.
Oh my God.
So anyway,
Well, congratulations.
when you mentioned the background and the upbringing, I have been so lucky that I have been mentored by the best entrepreneur in Dubai. That was Sheikh Rashid bin Maktoum.
Wow.
When it was the crucial states, it was the British
Amazing.
rule here. I came in 1966 here.
Wow.
And still I am
Wow,
struggling. When
wow,
you-
wow, amazing.
Believe me, when I saw this yesterday only on the internet that this thing was startup grind, I thought it was a coffee shop or something.
I'm so glad you're here.
And by the
That's
way,
amazing.
when you mentioned Starbucks 10 dirhams, do you know this tea cost me 10 dirhams? And I was going to ask him for a tissue, then I changed my mind. I said, "Maybe
Charge you, right?
You don't,
Oh
that
my
won't make
God.
sense.
And then in a college, how can these students afford? But I know they are from well-off parents.
And they're in Dubai, that's it.
Yeah.
No, I love what you were saying. And no, believe me, ma'am. I will call you ma'am because out of respect,
Yes,
not because
thank
of
you.
this thing. Believe me, what you have been saying, and then you also gave us hope. You said this is husband number second.
We should do another app. I love it. Saturday, Media Rotana.
So
Yeah.
I won't take a lot of your time, please. And I'm from the hospitality industry. As you said, you have to learn from the bottom.
Yes.
I left my father. He was a huge business. He had a lot of hotel properties in my country. And from college days, I was always inviting my friends and free food. And so
Yes,
he kicked
yes.
me out from there. Out of embarrassment, I came to Dubai. And I am not an alcoholic. But the first job I got as a management trainee, they put me as a sommelier, serving wine and alcohol.
Oh.
I had to take that job, and after that, whichever job I used to get, they used to give me the wine store. All the liquor was in my hand because they thought I would not deplete the stock. So the hard work is there, and I like what you said.
Thank
Our
you.
minds are. I am a human reader. I read people. And that's also what I do on my internet. People send me the photos, and then I analyze what they are doing.
Amazing.
And they think it's something spiritual. It is not that. It's just intellectual
Absolutely.
and reading from your body language
Yes.
and your features. The history, all
Thank
there.
you.
And you have been a blessed woman, lady. This is what I
Mashallah.
have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, since we're
Thank you.
running out of time,
No,
is there maybe one more question someone would like to ask? Just last one, make it good.
What happened to the company in Barcelona? Because they put $10 million.
They sure did.
You set it up.
Mhm.
And did they actually, are they alive now?
No,
And,
no,
did
because
they
no.
develop any talent?
The talent is absolutely alive, but the business wasn't because it was a
Why
whole,
was it not?
because it was a PR. They did it to see if it was going to work, to give a platform, to test it from a PR and publicity. It wasn't really one that they looked at as sustainable. And it was 10 years ago, so the vision that they had was to kind of test the concept. And back then, the whole concept of emerging talent or new creative designers didn't even exist. Like, they were talking Japanese back to it was all Prada, all LV. It was the height of the luxury. For them, it was, let's throw it in, let's see how people react. It was phenomenal. I'll give you the details. You can go online. It lasted their vision was to have it for 2 or 3 years, but the idea was to launch the designers that we selected. So each and one of them has become a success. They have their own label. They're all international. They work with celebrities. So
Which
they
is the name
became,
one?
sorry?
Can you name
Yes,
one?
well, I can name several, but one of them is Gaetano Peroni, and he was creative director for Alexander McQueen, and then he moved to Dior, and now he has his own label, and he works with Antonio Berardi and all the greats. And Gianluca Soldi, who is also another Italian, he was amazing, and he worked with Dolce & Gabbana and Versace, so they all collaborated, and some of them are still in Barcelona, some went back to Milan, some are in the UK working for Chloe, so they all did incredibly well, but the vision was not to have a sustainable platform at the time. It was to test to see if the market, you know, what the hype would be around new emerging talents and
Is it
labels.
something
Yeah.
like a fashion process, fashion forward that you have in
No, because it was a 10,000 square foot store in Broadway in New York. It was a beautiful store that they opened, they launched the designers in, but it's not fashion forward, it's a fashion runway
So
seasonal.
apart from that, they want to.
But that was a store concept.
Okay.
So we took them, we physically changed them, we created their brand identities, then we put them in the store to see how people would react to this concept. Fashion Forward is a fashion week, right?
Yeah.
Season.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. Both of them are platforms, but very different. Yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Now, before I
Okay.
call it a wrap, can we just have 3 single-worded advice points that they can take away? Just 3 little bitty words. What would it be?
3 words would be.
Yes.
three
Not
words.
sentences, words.
Yeah. What was that?
I was like, work your butt off. And
That's
that's
more than 3
4.
words.
So that's 4.
No, my words would be stay true to yourself. Yeah, that's it.
There we go. Thank you very much.
Amazing.
You're
Thank
amazing.
you so much.
Now you can all attack her.
Well done.
I thought maybe
It's always a
done.
daunting experience with her. And it's the first one, so
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.